All right, all right. Welcome, everybody. My name's Herbert, and this is Tesla Today. This topic is something I'm very, very excited about. Is we're going to explore in detail: is Tesla an AI company? Does the media and investors recognize that Tesla is an AI company? How does this compare to the dot-com boom, this new AI boom, and how will Tesla participate in this? We've got videos, we've got charts to show you. We're going to really examine this in detail. I've got Yashu Sharma joining us. He is his own host of his own YouTube channel called Hit That Bid, and he follows the stock market quite closely. Thank you again. We've had you on many times, Yashu, but it's been a while. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Herbert. Yeah, and welcome everyone for thanks for tuning in. I'm doing well. I hope you are as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's fun to have you here. You're very good with analyzing what's happening in the stock market. So let's get started with that, which is, let's show what's been happening to Tesla. This is the 1 week mark. You can see that it kind of started to rise and then it fell in the last day or two, but it's a nice little reprieve. But this is what it's looked like in a month, and it's been on a tear ever since a month ago, just
hmm
continuing going up from under 200 to now closer to even 300 at one point. And
hmm
then here's what it looked like year to date. So absolutely credible doubling in certain points. So I'm going to go ahead and share this video clip first, and we're going to see get your reaction to what people are saying about this.
Up 25% over the last 10 days. In fact, year to date, this stock is up a whopping 108%. Part of this has to do because of AI. Adam Jonas over at Morgan Stanley writing a note recently saying that investors are thinking of Tesla first as an AI company and second as an automobile maker.
The story about Tesla has been about their moat, about their investment in technology, their autonomous driving, how that database really gives them an edge over their competition because they don't want to be valued like GM or Ford or Volkswagen. They want to be valued like a tech company because that gets the stock price higher. If Tesla is an AI story, guess what? That's a bubble story. And so I would just take that to mean, okay, Tesla is going to be part of the next bubble.
The reason why robotaxis could be so transformational is the deals that they've struck with Ford and GM, basically opening the supercharger network, and effectively these two OEMs coming to Tesla and choosing their platform. Elon Musk said on his shareholder meeting, he said flat out, like, we want to be like Android and really open up this software to everybody.
The whole thing that's fascinating to me is the real transformation in this industry where everybody, right? Ford, GM, Stellantis, Ferrari, Volkswagen, they're all leaning into this EV transition. The industry's moving that way. I just think that, it's possible that it might take a little longer than expected to hit some of these forecast numbers that are out there.
All the moves they've made just in the 30 days since Elon's really been refocused on Tesla with signing up the entire world to the Tesla charging infrastructure, for example, and having a very, very positive meetings in China. The market's finally realizing the full value of the software that they've been developing for a long time that a lot of people have been saying is going to be incredibly valuable. Now I think the market's starting to say, hey, you know what? These cars do drive themselves, and that could be awesome.
So, what do you think, Yashu? So, we heard Elon at an interview a week ago, and he was asked, "What is the valuation of Tesla market cap?" And he said, "I think it's because of AI and a robotaxi," which I think most of us said, "What are you talking about? The stock price has currently today not baked in anything to do with AI." What do you
Yeah.
think, though?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've heard Elon say this in the past before as well. I think full self-driving, Tesla's price for full self-driving being a big portion of the valuation. I think when it was over $1 trillion originally, but you showed the numbers. I mean, in the last month, Tesla's up 42%. The Nasdaq's only up 10%, right? In the last 6 months, Tesla is up 110%, and the Nasdaq's up 35%. So I think what we're seeing is generally a mix of two different things. I think one is a swing back from the oversold nature that we were at when we were around $100 a share on Tesla. You generally just get these market swings, and when you get oversold, sometimes you can get the opposite reaction as well. But I think general big part of this as well is Elon's trip to China. I don't really see too many people talk about this, and we can talk about AI here in a second. But I think Elon's trip to China,
Mhm.
the last time he visited Shanghai was in January 2020, I believe, right? And we all know what happened to Tesla stock in 2020. Now, correlation doesn't equal causation. I'm not trying to say because Elon went to China, there you go. That's why Tesla stock is mooning. But I also don't find it a full coincidence that when Elon shows face to the Chinese government, to Chinese investors, that you see strength in Tesla stock. No doubt China is a key driver for Tesla margins today. Hopefully it'll be less so moving forward with the India rumors going around. But I think when you talk about AI, FSD, of course, to general Tesla enthusiasts like us, a lot has changed. Let's say in the last couple of months, with version 11.4.2 coming out, and all these updates for the FSD beta, and it looks really good, and it's making left turns in New York City in rush hour traffic. Everyone's getting excited, but I still don't think Wall Street is actually projecting very much of FSD in it at all. And the Dojo news that we got the other day, with Dojo actually being live for the last couple of months, and they showed their new graph where Dojo's coming full online in July, and then going to have 100 exaflops, within the next year or so. Of course, it's exciting, but I don't think the market's actually baking that in too much, because I think a key differentiator with Tesla AI is Tesla's eating their own dog food when it comes to AI. They're building these supercomputers to use for themselves and not to deploy out in the same way. Let's say NVIDIA, if NVIDIA, or I guess NVIDIA, I guess people are going to get mad at me if I pronounce it my way. NVIDIA, it's hard for me to even say it like that. We see what happened to that stock in the last couple of months, right? It doubled, essentially hit $1 trillion market cap, surpassed it. And it's on the backs of AI and everyone using the general compute power that and the GPU power that NVIDIA has. The issue for the market isn't that Tesla doesn't have the same capabilities and far surpassing that, or a future to do so, but it's that Tesla is not looking to license that out, to rent that out as of right now. They're looking to cannibalize that demand, and they're doing it so they're vertically integrated. And so the market doesn't really care so much about that yet. Of course, Tesla looks at it as a business proposition and goes, well, if we want to solve full self-driving, we need all this compute power, and we're going to use it for ourselves, because if we solve FSD, nothing else really matters. But the market, for better or for worse, and mostly for worse, doesn't actually care about that, in my opinion, as of right now. Now, by the time they care about it, it'll be too late. But I still don't think that's a key driver for the stock, believe it or not, despite what all the headlines are saying around AI right now, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Thank you for that. So that's why we're hearing the news pundits talking about Tesla as an AI company, because they're lumping them in along with all the other, which is great news, by the way. We want that to happen. And I'm sure that some of the stock increase is happening, but I don't think much at all, because like you say, it's kind of being used internally, not being sold to anybody. And NVIDIA's run up was because of their projected outsized projection for the next quarter's results, which is sales, that they're just saying, oh my God, every company out there is buying this. But we're going to show people the actual how fast Tesla is improving. It's going to surpass NVIDIA. And so it's actually a really good opportunity right now, right? So I want to show some more things here and then get your reaction again to that, which is, oops, here we go. So, Tesla owner Silicon Valley, John, tweeted this out. Tesla is an AI company, one of the biggest hidden secrets. And then part of his video was this, basically, something that Tesla AI, so Tesla created a new Twitter account called Tesla AI, and they did a huge thread, which is revealing all the things that they're doing. And here's an example of that. And so, the reason they're doing this is because, and I've been saying this, right? Elon needs to today go out every single day and say Tesla's an AI company, because they can't risk losing the top machine learning engineers to go to OpenAI, go to these NVIDIA, and go to these other companies that are being hyped up right now. Tesla needs to stem that wave. And I mean, what happened was Andrej Karpathy left Tesla to go to OpenAI, kind of a canary in a coal mine. And he needs to stop that. And so I'm telling you, we're going to hear more and more of this. And so after he tweeted this out, Elon replied, Tesla AI, both software and hardware, is far more advanced than even most experts realize. What you're thinking about, what does Tesla need to do to to convince the world that they are an AI company.
That's a great point about human capital. And I see there's even a question in the comments about, okay, what's Tesla's plan for launching out robo taxis? And I think that's generally a very key missed point that you just made, which is at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what you're making. It's about what human capital you have. At the end of the day, humans, if you put the best humans together, whether or not you work on something that results to anything in the immediate future matters less than the long-term effect of having the best engineers together in a company. So I think Elon does realize this, and that's why he does shout from the rooftops saying Tesla is an AI company. And it's not because he's trying to pad up PE on Tesla stock and cause it to rip. Like we know, insert any company today that has an earnings report that even marginally uses some sort of AI, they repeat it like 100 times in their earnings report because they want that sort of effect on their stock price, right? And I think what Tesla probably has to do to garner that AI with the average person is have some sort of a robo taxi rollout plan. And I've been on this train of, well, if Tesla's close, they should partner up with some sort of city, Miami, Las Vegas, LA, San Francisco, in a hub and say, look, we are planning to launch out robo taxis end of, I don't know, 2024, right? Middle of 2024. It's going to be, 45 Model Ys, 55 Model 3s, and they're going to operate between 7 a.m. to this time, and it's going to be Tesla company owner and operated. It's not going to be it's not an independent fleet, and we're going to run it. We're going to show a case study to the entire world. We're going to pilot it. We're going to show how Teslas actually act as robotaxis, and then from there we'll launch our full suite where you can download your Tesla fleet app. You can put your current Teslas on this fleet. You can subscribe to the monthly FSD subscription, whatever they do for their charging or their cleaning of the cars, whatever program that they come up with. But I think Tesla should, and they probably will at some point, launch out their own rollout plan for this. I just don't see, and some people argue, look, yeah, well, that's not going to happen. What Tesla's going to do is they're going to solve full self-driving, and one day we're going to wake up and we're all going to update our Teslas, and it's going to be solved. I just don't see how that happens. In my opinion, I think Tesla needs to be the first, needs to pilot this out, needs to make a case study for it so they can show every single city around North America why they should also allow Teslas to license out in their city. There's some sort of jurisdictions, I'm sure, that are going to come in the way. But I think at the end of the day, Tesla proving this out, running themselves and saying, look, we have cut fatalities or accidents by X rate with our 6-month pilot. They've worked well. And this is the average savings to consumers. And, this is the amount of drunk driving that we've lowered in this area. And I think just having that as a one-time case study and then using that package to sell around the world, I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I do agree with you. They're definitely going to roll out robotaxi city by city, staged way, pathway. I don't agree that it needs to happen. The robotaxi is not going to be the necessary for the Chat GPT moment when the world will realize that Tesla is an AI company. I think I've been saying this for a while, but I believe that it's going to be this thing here, which is Elon tweeted this out yesterday as well. He said that smart auto wiper software releases in 3 weeks. Okay, great. But more importantly, he said our patented actually smart summon is probably a month or two afterwards. So this is smart summon and reverse summon, which allows the car to be able to come to you, let's say in a parking lot, and you use the app and it drives to you. And then if you drop it off, it will find a parking spot. I'm telling you that this is going to be the Chat GPT moment when this happens. And, there's going to be people videotaping the car driving itself in the parking lot of a Target. You drop yourself at the lobby and then it goes and finds a parking lot and goes back. This is going to be videotaped. It's going to go on social media. It's going to be hyped everywhere. That's, I think, going to be the moment where people realize, oh my gosh, these cars can drive themselves. You and I know, everybody here in this audience knows 99% of people have no idea that the car can even stop at a stop sign or do anything. They don't even realize this. And so these videos will come out and they'll see this. But what's your thinking about what could be the Chat GPT moment for Tesla? Does it need to be, like you said, robotaxi in a city, which, for example, Cruise and Waymo are doing now?
Yeah.
Is it going to be just that or something more?
I actually quite like your theory about the parking lots and that coming through because I mean today those videos that do exist. If you go on YouTube, you can search up Smart Summon parking lot and see kind of something haphazardly kind of working. But that's an interesting theory that you have because I think it's true that people are generally impressed by stuff that they deem impossible. And more or less, people today, even though they don't know about robotaxis, can believe the idea that there exist cars that can drive on the streets a little bit, highways, especially today. Especially with so many cars having some sort of ADAS systems. But that parking lot feature, navigating around strollers and old ladies and shopping carts and getting around and doing it in a way that actually works because it has problems today. I think that's generally a pretty good theory because if you look at ChatGPT, what makes ChatGPT cool is that you can talk to it like you would talk to a friend, and it's not the actual information you get. I think more or less people don't really care about what they get back. It's that they feel like they can speak to it however way they want, and it understands them. And I think that's a very good theory with the parking lot. So maybe that is the point. And maybe my rollout plan is a little bit too far fetched for the next couple of years for it to come out even. But FSC truthers would tell you otherwise, and I really hope I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, I just interviewed Dirty Tesla. We'll publish that this weekend. He is one of the most famous FSD beta testers between him and Chuck Cook and Omar. They've been doing this, and it's a matter of thinking about how fast will FSD improve, and we're going to talk about Dojo, the supercomputer. They're already been using it, and this will just accelerate how quickly they're able to ingest all the millions and billions of videos that's being obtained right now from all the 4 million cars that we have available and the 400,000 FSD beta testers. And so what's going to happen is it's improved, and then all of a sudden, boom, it works. So I just want to get back to that conversation about this AI boom that's happening in the general market. Let's watch a video talking about comparing this AI boom that we're seeing now with the dot-com boom, and see if you think that there's some difference between what's happening then and what's happening now.
Are at all-time highs, and those stocks in turn have driven the S&P. The 7 biggest tech stocks are responsible for functionally all of the S&P stock gains in 2023. So if this feels like a moment of gigantic hype, you wouldn't be mistaken. But so was 1999.
You remember when we'd go to cocktail parties in 1999 and 2000, and everybody and his brother, mother, sister, uncle, cousin would be asking you how to get in on this.
I will never forget going to a Chinese restaurant in Asheboro, North Carolina, and the waiter asking me about CMGI.
But if you take a look at the numbers, this moment of AI mania has nothing on the dot-com bubble. And based on the earnings and revenue figures on Wall Street, those stocks may actually be historically cheap still. One investment research firm recently wrote, we estimate that all of the gains in the S&P 500 this year can be attributed to AI. NVIDIA has more than...
I'll pause it there. Ooh, so Yashu, you look like you're very young. You probably have no idea what the dot-com boom was, right? Nothing.
No, I was very little. I think I vicariously lived through it with my dad, who was really into computing and computers and got me into that sort of stuff. But yes, I don't remember the big boom and bust of the stock market as much.
Of course, I lived through it. I invested through it. I actually moved from Canada to the US because of the dot-com boom. I got hired by a company called Medibuy, which is a healthcare supply chain e-commerce site that they were going to revolutionize. All hospitals would purchase everything. And you can imagine it's like a mini city. They buy food, they buy beds, they buy MRI machines, they buy drugs through our software. And it would connect all the suppliers through this electronically. We got funded by WIT, Sequoia Capital, Kleiner Perkins, $250 million of funding. It was a dot-com boom. And then 2 months later, the crash happened and everybody had to go back home. And so this was an exuberance in the market for the internet about to change the world. Amazon was formed in 1995. They started showing in 1999 that they were really something. And at 2000, the world woke up and realized that this website thing was real. It can revolutionize businesses. And you got pet.com, the famous, are you familiar? Pet.com crashed because you can't send 25-pound food. Now you can, but at that time you couldn't deliver that cost effectively. But so we are seeing an AI boom now. What do you think? How do they two compare? Is this going to be like one of those, thing that happens? Everybody get excited, they all throw into it.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just top 7 companies that are being thrown money at, but you can see that this is now expanding to everybody saying, "Hey, I'm an AI company." What do you think's happening?
Yeah, I think I would also throw into that the kind of blockchain crypto-esque bubble that we kind of saw in 2017 as well. Probably even before that for the crypto truthers out there. But I think this is different. And I think like the .com bubble, you're probably going to have a lot of fluff built into this with companies that just call their general processing AI or their machine learning, and really it's not a lot. But I think at the end of the day, that's just the kind of the fat around the edges, but there's still a lot of meat on this bone. And I think the key way I look at AI being actually fundamentally positive and actually not just being fluff or hype is that we actually see it changing the way that we live today and our productivity today. With something like blockchain, it was very theoretical. I still believe in the blockchain. I still believe in crypto. I'm a big believer in that tech, but it wasn't like a day-to-day transformation. It's not like I went to the coffee shop and everyone was starting to take, Bitcoin or had a new way to live. And I mean, in some countries, yes, with hyperinflation, but like here in Canada or here, or, even through in North America, didn't really change the way that we lived, right? It was a lot of it was theory for now. And it was a future that we were looking towards. With AI, I mean, look in the last, ChatGPT came out not even a year ago. 8-9 months ago, and we already see it. Workers today, I mean, top tech companies, throw in the chat if you're already using it. People are using it to help and increase productivity at work. If you need to come up with a general template for a 6-part email series about a new product that you have coming out, and you're kind of having writer's block, throw it into ChatGPT, get out a template, and then use that to work off of, right?
Exactly.
And it's changing the way that we're actually utilizing our human capital at work. I think that's fundamentally the difference between what we're seeing with something like cryptocurrency or the .com bubble. It's not theoretical, and it's only been out for 6 months, and we're actually using it, and it's actually increasing productivity today. All of the productivity losses that we had, I believe, from COVID, and let's throw in remote work and just lowering the productivity as a whole. And this is not a slander against remote work or at all at any point, but it's hard to argue that it didn't decrease productivity at some level. Everything that we're seeing there, I think, is made up and then some in the next few years with AI and it enabling the way that we work. So when we talk about Dojo, when we talk about Tesla focusing on it, Tesla's primary focus with Dojo is the scalability of neural nets and the scalability of machine learning, and for the ability for any company, let's say in 5 or 10 years, to be able to rent a piece of a piece of Dojo and then use that to train on their own network. So it's early days, it's early innings, and people don't like OpenAI. Elon even hates OpenAI at some degree, but I think it's fundamentally changing the way that we're operating today.
Okay, yeah. So I very much agree with, and I think we need to hammer this point home. Another point I want to mention is that the inflation war, previous inflation wars, the market came back to its the S&P market within 4 months. So this is what people are saying at this point, that this is what we're seeing. But now this AI boom, like you said, it's a productivity boost for every company, every single company, and they're using it now. They're all using it now. Every employee is using it so much. So I do think this is going to be another massive boom, like a real stock market boom for a long period of time. Usually when there's a boom, it's always preceded by technology invention or something that happened. And then everybody became much more productive. And this is why you see a 10-year boom usually, and maybe a two-year or maybe 4-year recession. So I'm bullish. The question is, like you said, there's always going to be pullbacks, right? So let me just finish off this the rest of this video, and then we can continue this conversation.
There's the private markets where AI unicorns are being minted faster.
Oh, what's going on?
Than you can say bubble. So is an AI bubble forming? Where are we in the relative hype cycle for transformational technologies? some analysts say not for now. If you look at the price to earnings multiple for the NASDAQ 100, it is nowhere close to the peaks that we saw during the dot-com bubble, which ran up as high as 60 times forward earnings in March of 2000. Today, the forward P of the NASDAQ 100 is closer to 26 times.
You saw price earnings ratios. When you take out the 5 biggest stocks from the NASDAQ 100 in 1999-2000, the PE was 3,666. And of the nearly 500 companies that went public in 1999, 77% had no profits. It was a wildly different environment.
Even big name stocks like Cisco and Qualcomm. In March of 2000, Cisco had a PE of 150, Qualcomm 167, and Yahoo at an unsustainable 600.
Woohoo! I thought she said Yashu, but she said Yahoo. A PE ratio of 650. I mean, I'm telling you, the PE ratios are crazy at that time. We're here all going, Tesla's properly valued at a 50 PE ratio. And I'm like freaking out with people like, you don't understand. You have to put in the growth. If next year it goes 50%, if 50 PE ratio goes to 25, the next year it goes 50%, it goes to 15. Of course, this is why it's not ridiculous. I don't know if you saw this video I did where I interviewed Andrea James, and I released it on Sunday. Andrea was the very first Wall Street analyst who gave Tesla a bull rating in way back in 2013-12. And at the time, the short was telling her, "Are you crazy? Tesla's PE ratio is 1,100 times." And she goes, "Yeah." Now at the time it's different because it was a monetary easing. There was lots of money everywhere, so it's very different than it is today. I'm not saying that that's appropriate to compare that, but wow, that now those were they were not based on any earnings, like you said. It was just all hype. Here you saw that it's really Nvidia's jump was because of projected earnings. This is real money flowing into the company.
And that's not to say that you're not going to get these fluffy companies, because you will. I mean, the amount of I was at an AI conference last week, and the CEO of Hootsuite was speaking at it, and she was going through a slide, and there was a machine learning AI product manager from Google as well speaking at this panel, and they showed this slide of just the hundreds of millions of dollars of funding in the last half a year that all these companies on the backs of AI have gotten. And obviously, like just the skeptical side of me is like, well, okay, how many of these companies are even going to exist in the next 2 or 3 years? But let's not let the hype and the puffery let us lose focus from what is the core and the crux of this, right? I mean, of course, every single let's call it every single radical change of technology in the world will have this sort of fat and fluff around it. But the focus, like you said, NVIDIA saying, look, we are padding up our profits. We're going from 7 billion to 11 billion in revenue because of this. And we look at ChatGPT, obviously, but I'll bring it to a micro level. I have YouTube clips. I throw it into an AI clipper, and it essentially takes, guys, this is nuts. It takes my 30 to 60 minute video. Doesn't matter how long it is. It finds the best clips. It clips them together into 60-second clips, and then it captions it, gives me a title, and I get to choose whether or not I want to post it within one click. Something that probably takes an editor a couple hours to do, put it together, think of an idea. It can transcribe the whole thing so it knows. It can obviously use AI to figure out what's a good theme here for a clip. And essentially it does all the work for me in 15 minutes. I come in, I select a couple clips, and I post them. It is crazy. And we talk about deflation. That is right there is a deflationary, or I guess I should say disinflationary mode of work right there that we're seeing, cutting out people from posting clips and editing and graphic design and stuff like that. So I'm really excited. And I think Tesla, if all Tesla did was this, if they said, hey, this Dojo project, we're actually not going to cannibalize all the demand here. We're going to actually start renting all of this out and monetizing this from day one. And we don't care about using any of this ourselves. Well, I think the market would go crazy over that. They would essentially go, this is nuts. This is a huge new revenue pool for Tesla. What does this mean for margins? And they would go crazy over it. But because Tesla is internally using all of the demand that they get from these Dojo supercomputers, the market is kind of turning a blind eye to this right now until they solve FSD. So I think it's a huge sleeper. It's still far from there. I mean, the whole point is scalability. But it's really, really cool to see that we can spend a whole episode talking about Tesla AI, and a whole episode talking about Tesla Energy, and a whole episode talking about Tesla Auto. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay. I love it, love it, love it. Elon did say that Tesla is not going to compete with NVIDIA anytime soon. They're not creating a chip to sell to everyone else. But like you said, when they do Dojo as a service,
Yeah.
it's like Amazon's AWS. And the funny thing is, Dojo service could actually be so big as a, well, it can't compete with the other markets. By then, so many things like bots and energy could be bigger. But
Yeah.
let's talk about what Tesla's AI is. And so, we've got this article written, but basically Tesla released their AI account, released some very important information just a few days ago. Like I say, they're going to do this daily. And they said that they're going to start Dojo production next month. This is an amazing chart that they showed that by July 2023, the start of Dojo production. And that production means in software terms, what they're talking about is, going live. Not that they're building it. They've already built it. They've been building it for a couple of years now. And Elon has said before that FSD does not need Dojo to become robotaxi, and that the team would currently use the existing NVIDIA supercluster that they currently have been using for the last several years, and they would not be forced to switch to Dojo until Dojo is equal to or better than the NVIDIA supercluster. And then James Dalma told me that they're not going to get rid of the NVIDIA supercluster. They're just going to add on as the months go by. They'll keep adding more and more of these clusters to add on, and eventually it will be Dojo majority of the time. So this is start in July 23. Look at this. And currently the NVIDIA supercluster is the 5th largest in the world. So just stop and think about that, right? Not many companies can afford to have a supercomputer in their capability, and it's already the 5th largest in the world that Tesla has, just the NVIDIA one. But the problem is NVIDIA is not optimized for machine learning. It's optimized for gaming. And so every company out there that are buying NVIDIA chips and NVIDIA compute, it's actually not optimized for machine learning. And that's what Dojo is. Dojo is designed from the ground up to be specifically machine learning and vision labeling. But look at this. By January, it's going to be the top 5 in the entire world. And then look how crazy, how fast this is. Look at this, guys. This is the same year. April, July, October. This is the same year. It's not years. This is months. Yeah. By 1 year from now, look at this. It's going to be 100 exaflops. It's like this is an exponential curve. How much compute this is going to grow. Yeah. So it is. We don't have to wait long for not only FSD and bots, because everything will go exponentially. They'll grow, and then beyond that, it just goes way beyond that. So, oops, where am I going here? So now Testify asked the question, so does Dojo come online next month? He actually said no, it's actually been online and running useful tasks for a few months already. So that chart we just showed you might actually be behind already. And then he said this, I should clarify that Dojo version 1 is highly optimized for vast amounts of video training, but Dojo 2 will then be able to do general purpose AI because it will address these limitations. Whoa, he's already talking about general AI, which is, guys, that's God. that's this is general AI. This is when computers wake up and have consciousness,
and I think what it means is like Dojo V1 is for FSD, and they're using it for themselves, and they really have no reason to expand that right now. What they want to do is solve for their use case, which is let's solve for full self-driving to a point where we're comfortable launching full self-driving. And then I think V2 is like, okay, great, we've done that. How do we now expand this to something that's more useful outside of just people internally in Tesla and the FSD team? And how do we now try to scale this up and monetize it and allow other companies to be able to use the compute power as well? It's crazy. I mean, looking at Tesla and how vertically integrated they are, and again, Tesla continues to eat their own dog food. And I think more and more companies today resist that, and they try to outsource everything, find suppliers. Tesla goes, no, you know what? We have the money, we have the capability, we have a war chest, we have all the human capital that we possibly would like. We're one of the top rated places to work, that and Starlink and SpaceX. Why not do it ourselves? And whether or not this works, because I still think Elon would probably say, look, this is nothing. This is nothing but done yet. Like this is no easy layup. It's still going to take a lot of work, and there might be hiccups on the way. Whether or not whether or not that specific use case is completed or they pivot, I think the learnings that they get and the ability for them to continually vertically integrate at every part of their story and their journey speaks to why Tesla in and of itself is going to be a behemoth, and whether we like it or not. And if AI is the future, man, you're gonna need a lot of compute power, and they want to get to a point where there's going to be excess compute power all around the world. And without Tesla, I don't think that's probably possible.
Yeah. I don't think I'm being overly bullish, because a lot of people will say that when I make these statements that you're just being crazy talk, which is that FSD, Elon has said, is a solved problem. And people hate hearing him say that, because every year he says that it's not true. And recently he kept saying, laughter. But yeah, I do think it's going to happen by the end of this year. And the reason why he says that is because they build neural nets. A neural net is a system that can teach itself and code itself. It basically codes itself. And with version 11, they single stack. Now they got rid of most of the coded software that they had before, and now almost all are neural nets at this point. And every time he said that, there's always some sort of ceiling, and they realize that they have to redo that neural net again, because there was that ceiling that they found. He thinks that if this time there is no ceiling, it can basically solve all these edge cases that we need, or not all, but the vast majority of the critical ones. And then with Dojo coming online opportunistically right now in June, and he said it's already been helping. So I think that when he says things like, I do see it happening by the end of this year, what we don't realize is that he's seeing the supercomputers becoming faster. The rate of improvement in itself is improving. He said that, right? The rate of improvement itself is improving.
Right.
He's seeing it work. And so at one point, many of these simple things that we're seeing the FSD happening is going to break down. So I just want to complete this a little bit and show I found this tweet thread from Bradford Ferguson, and I liked it because it was a very simple way to explain Dojo to us layman people. He said, you know how we all get excited when a new faster computer or smartphone comes out? That's exactly what's happening at Tesla right now. They've just announced they're going to start making their own supercomputer, the Dojo, this July. Elon said that they'll only start that when they had that solution that's more capable and cheaper than what NVIDIA offers. That's when they will start using it. So that means that they probably hit that, or the chart says by January, they'll be better than the 5th largest computer. The beauty of Dojo is that it supercharges how quickly Tesla can train its AI networks. We're talking hours or days instead of weeks. This means they can make their self-driving technology even better, even quicker. And I think you mentioned this earlier, which is Dojo is going to make Tesla AI networks faster and cheaper, but in fact, it's used not only for full self-driving, but every part of their company. It's used everywhere. James Thelma has confirmed that he listed out all sorts of places the company uses that. And it's not just about speed. Dojo is about savings. It sidesteps NVIDIA's dominance in the AI supercomputing world. You know that you've heard Elon say that there is you can't buy chips at this point because every company is trying to buy the chips. But he has also said that NVIDIA won't be the only one. Currently, like Google and Amazon and Tesla has been buying these chips as much as they can. But eventually, everyone is working on their own solution, and that's why it's important that Tesla has their own, so they're not reliant on other companies. Mm-hmm. And top of that, Tesla engineers are loving it. They're getting their feedback quicker. It's attracting the brightest minds. Like I said, that's the most important thing for him. He can't lose the best folks. He needs to make a big deal about this, and he needs to show bots using this. He needs to show improvement. Dojo is paving the way for safer Tesla cars, pushing the boundaries for ambitious Tesla bot project. It can allow Tesla to invest more, blah, 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 blah. So lots of reasons. So this is at the same cost, fastest AI training computer that's out there. right now. And I have to confirm again, just reiterate, no one except for Tesla has ever built a supercomputer and neural nets that is optimized for machine learning. That's why they did this. Everything else that's out there, including NVIDIA, was not optimized for machine learning. And so that's why this is a big deal. And then, like you said, it's because they're not selling it yet, except for as a service. That's why it's not yet valued. So, yeah, what's your comments on everything I just went through?
Yeah, I think the cluster that they use for trading, and I think they use another cluster for the auto labeling. So they have different use cases for different clusters that they have. I'm just trying to think, like, at the end of the day, where does this go? If you just game theory this out, Tesla is not reliant on any third party to train their neural nets. They are the only one close to solving full self drive in the way that they believe that full self-driving should and can only be solved for. And so you get into this world X amount of years from now where Tesla has full self-driving, they're running their own networks. Any second place company to full self-driving says, you know what, we're better off just ditching this now, not even sinking in the time, effort, money, and capital needed. And let's just license this puppy out and let's move on with it. And let's move on to something else, maybe better sort of marginal way that they can eke out some profit with robotaxi fleets. And Tesla has a monopoly to charge whatever they want on their robotaxi network and licensing it out. And the best part is, as long as your car has cameras, which hopefully every car moving forward from 2023 and beyond will have and does have, you should be able to calibrate it over and by licensing full self-drive from Tesla, be able to also replicate it on your car as well. So I think this just ends with Tesla being the only robotaxi general purpose AI solvable company out there. Tesla, any other competitor, essentially ditching what they got, other than some micro solutions that may exist with Waymo or Cruise in certain select areas and at certain select times. But the only true scalable one being Tesla and their AI and their robotaxi. But the only question is timing at this point. Elon says this year. A lot of people say this year. But even let's just throw out 5 to 10 years. Even if it's 5-10 years, who cares? That what they're solving for is just so massive that at the end of the day, 5 or 10 years really doesn't mean anything in terms of timeline, if it means solving what we think it means solving.
Yeah. And so I'm predicting that there's going to be a legacy OEM partnering with Tesla on FSD this year, and it won't be FSD. What it will be is the advanced driver assistance. So it's the safety, right? Being able to use occupancy network, preventing accidents, being able to just feel safer, and letting the car kind of do evasive maneuvers when needed. I think that part can be positioned as advanced safety before they have to, say this is robotaxi ready and on all that. So it's inevitable, right? It's inevitable. So this is exciting. Any last comments in terms of like, when do you think that? Oh, so okay, just to wrap it up again on this discussion of on AI. How much of the stock do you think has the rise because of being seen as Tesla as an AI company? And then what will happen in the next 6 months, next year? What will Tesla need to do to really make the world realize that they are the leader in AI, not just, that they are an AI company?
I would say, like, my gut instinct tells me less than 20% of the rise that we've seen in the last few months here has anything to do with AI. Even though AI is top of mind, we saw what happened with stocks like Nvidia. I just don't think the market is looking at AI and going, "Oh yeah, that's Tesla. Let's start buying Tesla for AI." I think what we're seeing here is a rebound from the oversold nature when Tesla was at $100, and also Tesla slowly increasing their prices again for cars is a signal that, okay, they're kind of done lowering prices to the rock bottom levels that they've hit for their cars for now. They've kind of bottomed them out. Hopefully margins kind of bottom out this quarter, and then we're kind of up and at them again to end the year with cost savings. So I think the street is just mostly looking at the auto business and going, okay, it makes sense. The margins should bottom out now. And they're not really looking at the AI thing. I would say maybe even less than 10% of the rise that we've seen here in the last 6 months has anything to do with AI. But that's good, because if you believe in AI and you believe, but forget about monetization of AI, and if you just believe in just the tech that Tesla has with AI, and that they can eat their own dog food again and use this to solve full self-driving, really, I mean, nothing else kind of matters with Tesla. If Tesla can solve full self-driving, if and when they solve full self-driving, let's be honest, like the kind of economics just get so nutty with robo taxis and fleets that it's just kind of mind-boggling. But I think that's also why the street mostly stays away from it. Remember, like, the street doesn't optimize for general correctness; they optimize for saving face, because they have other stocks that they're going to analyze. They don't want to be labeled as some sort of one stock firm that they went out there and said this crazy thing for, unless you're Kathy Wood or ARK mostly. So they're optimizing for different things. But if you believe that Tesla can solve full self-driving with the AI tech, I think nothing else kind of matters, because who cares about 20% or 15% gross margin on cars if they have full self-driving, right?
Yeah. Scott Walter is a he owned 2 robotics companies in the past. He and I have been doing a bunch of Tesla bot videos. And most recently we did one where we compared 10 different bots out there. And the only one of these 10 that actually had the ability to have AI or brain is Sanctuary. And they don't really talk much about, they just say that they're working on it. And so, I think the Tesla bot is going to be another way to showcase ChatGPT moment for Tesla, because if they can show, it's just more flashy, right? All these demos that they can do. And they can show that, just like you're using ChatGPT, where it's a text-based response to a computer system, and you're impressed at that. So here you can actually like tell the bot to do something, and it will be able to do it.
Right.
And what if they did a demo and they go, Optimus, grab the banana, and does that. Sanctuary they did that demo where there was 4 items on the floor. The Sanctuary bot will pick up the one that they verbally tell it what to do, and it goes and picks up that thing because it uses vision, figure out the item, and knows how to pick it up. That's what they need to do, and that's what they'll be doing. And just an aside, by the way, I found out that Boston Dynamics Atlas is not a competitor to Tesla bot. Boston Dynamics themselves, the CEO says they're not selling the Atlas. It is research and development. They're selling their Spot dog, and they're selling this other other thing that kind of grabs things in the factories. So, anyways, everybody keeps saying, "Oh my God, they're so far ahead." They're not,
and it's all programmable as well. It's all programmable.
all programmed. It's like every step that it does was programmed. There's some where it kind of knows its balance and it's figuring that out on the fly. But it does not have any brains at all. They don't have a supercomputer. They don't have a staff to do this. So Tesla is really far ahead in their Tesla bot. And I think we're all going to be shocked. And I'm telling you that by September and AI Day, they need to make a big deal, showcase everybody to attract these big employees to come work for them. So in the same way, let's get to that, which is the same way we all think that BYD is a competitor to Tesla. So this Ray for Tesla is one of our Tesla Twitter community folks who keeps track of what's happening in China. And he translated this video where BYD's vice president, Li Ke, or something like that, was saying that they're not going to enter the US market. Okay. They will not consider such a plan for now. And BYD doesn't need to enter every market. We know that BYD is making kind of landfalls in Europe, but they're just really at the beginning. And then this last statement, I don't know what she's saying here, and Ray didn't either. She goes on to say that the IRA, the Investment Reduction Act, will lead to higher EV prices that consumers will have to pay. What? He goes, I'm lost in that last part of what he says. So I'm sure that is not correct. But okay, so BYD is not going to go to the US. And Jeff Lutz, who I interview quite often here, he has been saying that very likely the US will not let, will not let the US, because of Ford and GM and all these auto markets, they're going to really make us think about it, not let other come in, protectionists.
I agree. Yeah, I don't. So look, I mean, at the end of the day, BYD is at the only other large scale EV manufacturer in the world, like at the scale that Tesla is at, albeit that they still make hybrids and gas cars, right? Like, and without subsidies from China, they're definitely not profitable. Anyways, let's put all that aside for a second. I think the IRA is not really the Inflation Reduction Act. It's the American Protection Act almost. The reason why is because they're trying to localize supply. They're trying to localize the entire supply chain to North America. Look what happened with COVID. At the end of the day, you realized how much power foreign entities like China had on US domestic companies, and the power to essentially say, you know what, let's go into our 9th lockdown of the year because we, because we don't like what's happening with some made up numbers in this community. Like this power struggle that we saw for the last 2 years with supply chains in China has essentially opened the US government up and opened up their eyes to say, look, though it sucks, we're going to have to localize all of our supply chains and incentivize companies to do so. And if we talk about phones for a second, I mean, at the end of the day, if our phones track what we do, they track our communication, they have cameras, they have mics. If we know that the US government doesn't want foreign entities to have control over our phones, why would they want ever to live in a future where 15 or 20 years from now, they have access to our electric cars? I mean, talk about transportation, you talk about cameras, you talk about communication, you talk about privacy. All of that exists and more with electric vehicles. So the best thing they can do is get ahead of that now, localize everything so American companies control at least the domestic car market for EVs moving forward. And it's not a scenario where 15 or 20 years from now, there's an infiltration of Chinese electric vehicles in North America, and there's some sort of security risk with that. So I think they're quite ahead, and this sounds kind of tinfoily, but I really think that's the entire point of the Inflation Reduction Act with EVs in particular. And I also don't think from a consumer level, to be quite honest, that a lot of consumers would prefer Chinese EV brands just in general. We see it with Android Huawei phones or stuff like that. I think at the end of the day, though the specs can be better for certain phones, there's a reason why Apple wins. It's American designed. At the end of the day, it's an American company, albeit it's manufactured in China. It's all designed in the US and abroad. So I think this BYD news and them not coming into North America is, I mean, it makes sense that they wouldn't, because I really don't think that they would have the same level of demand as people like to think they would.
Okay. Well, that's another place where I'm kind of not on board with everything you just said there. I think that you're right. The IRA is a protectionist plan, and we'll talk about even more loans in the next few bit of news here. But they're going to have to treat BYD, Chinese car companies, much like the Chinese are treating Tesla. They have Chinese also have the same concern. They don't want an American company to come in and tracking with 8 cameras and voice and everything into cameras, and then tracking everything that their executives and their politicians are driving to. So they've negotiated that with Tesla to make sure that it's a walled garden there where the data resides and who has access to it. And the same thing will happen in China. And I also right now, Samsung is 85% of the market. Maybe not 85% of the US market, but significant 50-50 here. Hyundai and these other Japanese car companies, Toyota and Honda did very well in the US. So you got a good car that's got quality, it will do well here. So I'm not going to say that Chinese car companies will not succeed in the US. I think that they're not profitable right now. They're propped up by the Chinese government. They're trying to make inroads into Europe. And it actually makes a ton of sense, because if you look at the data, all the European car companies, they're in trouble. Those guys are not selling, including the American ones, are not selling at all in China. It's basically Tesla and Chinese brands and BYD, and that's it. And so now the European market is wide open field, and BYD will come in there and take that over. So right now, they're going to have a harder time in the US. Okay. Well, I mean, who knows what's going to happen there? We'll chase that down. But yeah, did you have a comment there?
Agree to disagree for now. I think this is a great debate topic that we can have, whether or not BYD would succeed outside of China. And I think it's a little bit different with Korean, Japanese brands, just because they don't fall under the same political ideology that let's say the CCP would. But anyways, I think that's a great episode that we can have one day with the future of EVs and the data security and all this stuff. Because I think in the next multiple decades, it's going to come up. Like right now, like EVs are, I mean, they're prevalent, but they're they're not the majority of cars out there. But one day we'll kind of wake up and they will be, and all of these questions that we're having right now are going to come to the top, and they're going to be in part of these stupid Congress committees that they have and all that. Like, it's going to happen one day, and I think it'll be super cool to debate it as time goes on. But
Yep.
I think the biggest thing here that we've taken out is it's exciting times, for better or for worse. It's a roller coaster, and at the end of the day, it always gives us something to talk about, at least.
Yep. So Ford, GM, they're in big trouble. So good thing, like you said, it's U.S. You called it U.S. Protectionist Act, the IRA. So the U.S. is going to loan the Ford and SK Venture $9.2 billion for battery plants. What the friggin' what? U.S. Energy Department is going to lend $9.2 billion to a joint venture of Ford Motor and South Korea's SK to help it build 3 battery plants in Tennessee and Kentucky. It's I guess the partnership's called Blue Oval. That's joint venture, and they're going to get this government loan at low cost. And so last year, you pointed this out, that General Motors and LG, where they were given $2.5 billion to help construct lithium ion battery cells in Ohio, Tennessee, and Michigan. And so Ford was around, and then in 2009, Ford was awarded $5.9 billion. And it completed its payments last year, deferring some in 2020. So Ford and Tesla were the only ones that actually paid it off. And then in Ford in February, they had a separate deal, $3.5 billion, to use technology from cattle to build a battery plant in Michigan. Boy, they're getting a lot of money. And meanwhile, everybody remembers this because this was a big deal, and everybody remembers that in 2010, Tesla was given $465 million loan, which they paid back in 2013, and yet somehow they think that Tesla was somehow propped up by the government, and they only survived because of the government. And this was written 2022, so this was last year, where GM was given $2.5 billion. So, oh my gosh, so lots and lots of loans being given. So while we were saying that the IRA, some people call it the Tesla, was it the Tesla Enrichment Act? Because the vast majority of the IRA, it's actually, they're using it to prop up these other guys. So what's your thinking about protectionism for these American car companies?
Yeah, it's a big reason why I have a hard time. You talk about people like, oh, it's such an easy short. Ford and GM are zero. Look how much debt they have. There's a reason why I think, they're not going to go down without a fight, and they have a lot of political power, and they're able to swing their way. When you have that big of a union base and employees and votership, you can get your way around. And what we're seeing here is more and more handouts. Whether or not these get paid back, different story altogether. But it's something that they have to do. They don't have the internal capital to do it, nor do they want to use their internal capital. Who knows? I think there's probably a 50-50 chance this ever gets paid back. Herbert, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I was talking. I was just looking at the Tesla stock price. It looks like it's going to close in the green, 264 at 3 minutes left. Wonderful. So great. So we covered quite a bit. Tesla is an AI company. I do think that it's going to look good as we move forward. There's just so many things. What's your thoughts? So what is the thing that you're most so you saw the partnerships that kick-started it. Where do you see the stock going to go in the next 6 months? Do you think that this is going to continue momentum?
I think we probably see a pullback soon. When the stock is ripped as much as it has, 90% or something, like in the last 3 months, usually when stocks rip this much, you probably should and will see a pullback, but that's fine. Even if the stock retreats 10 or 20% from here, I don't think anyone is really going to be a long-term person is not really going to be like, woe is me. I think at the end of the day, a pullback is healthy. And I'm looking at, of course, margins being a story for Q2. Production delivery, everyone's like, oh, it's going to be a record month. Folks, remember, it should, and it will be a record month every month for Tesla, or every quarter for Tesla for production deliveries. And if it's not, that's worrisome. So just having a record month, a record quarter in and of itself is not a bar that I think is acceptable. But I think if margins bottom out, and more importantly, I'm really excited for the Cybertruck to end the year. Mm-hmm. If Cybertruck, even if we get a handful of deliveries of this thing to end the year on a big note, I think it'll have a huge momentum shift for everyone that talks about Tesla and Tesla stock.
Okay. Thank you for coming on board here. Appreciate you, Yashu. He has his own YouTube channel. Hit that bid. He follows the stock market closely. If you want to learn about what's going on with the stock, he's the one to watch. Thank you so much, Yashu. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Herbert, for having me on. Thanks, everyone in the chat.